Hello and welcome to Mad Dog Hobby, just a guy enjoying the hobby the only way I know how, unprepared, with coffee and a steep learning curve. Rough. Imperial Stormtroopers are basically the guard's overachievers, precision strikes, boarding actions, the kind of lads you want to send in when you want to make sure the enemy will die in the Emperor's name. Inquisitorial Stormtroopers are picked from the best of the best, or sometimes just from families with a long history of serving the Inquisition, but they must pass rigorous purity and incorruptibility tests before they are able to bear the emblem of the Inquisition. Inquisitorial stormtroopers are pretty much the same as you find in the Astra Militarum, but detached and serving the Inquisition, answering only to their Lord Inquisitor. They're often better equipped and better trained than their guard counterparts, but enough of lore. Fuck yes, let's kitbash some of these bad boys and run them as Kasrkin and Kill Team, because why buy perfectly good models when you can spend 3 times as much instead? I'm using a box of the Exaction Squad that has been in my pile of opportunities since the Galadark days, and a box of Scions that's been in my pile of opportunities since the Ashes of Faith days, but I also needed to buy an extra box of Scions from eBay to bulk out the squad. The vision here, give them a Gothic Inquisition vibe. My plan to do this is to use the bodies and the heads from the Scions and the arms and legs from the Exaction Squad. Easy-ish. Maybe. I start by removing the dangly bits and pouches from the Exaction Squad torso, just clipping them off and then smoothing out the area with the back of my knife. I then glue both the torsos of the Scion and Exaction Squad member together and put them aside to let them set hard. I want to keep the shoulder plate from the Exaction kit, which means I need to remove the RBT symbol. I clip some of the more pronounced edges off before switching to my file and knife to remove the remaining excess and smoothing down the surface. Now for the weapons. I want to equip the Sergeant with a plasma pistol and chainsword I sourced from the Krieg set. The easiest way I could think of to do this was to remove the shot pistol from the Exaction hand, leaving the trigger in place, so I can then remove the hand from the Krieg plasma pistol, smoothing and cutting both parts until I had a nice snug fit, wishing I had some sprue glue to fix it in place. I thought the leash arm from the Leash Master will give the best dynamic for the chainsword arm, so I cut the leash off to get an easier angle to cut half the hand away, neatening up the cut with my pathetically dull knife before forgetting to film gluing it together, but you get the gist here. Now I move on to bashing together the legs and torso. I start by removing any bits from the top of the R-beta legs, so I can get a snug fit later when attaching the Scion torso. Then comes out the hobby saw to gently cut through the torso and groin just above the belt to separate the two. I want to keep the groin to attach the legs to and then simply attach the Scion body on top, so I neaten up the cut with my knife, cutting away any excess torso from above the belt and getting the area as straight as possible. I then glue the RBT's legs to the groin and mount them onto the base. Attaching the Scion torso to the RBT's groin will be a bit of a challenge because now I have a dirty grey big hole with not much surface area for glue. I break out the milliput, cutting 2 equal parts from the 2-part epoxy putty and mix it together. I then break parts off and squeeze it down into the hole, making sure it is tight with no air gaps. Next, I drill a 1.5mm hole under the Scion torso so I can superglue some brass rod into place. I'm using this Rocket Kyano glue, which is super thick, super strong, and dries super fast. Once the glue is dry, but before the milliput is set, I squeeze the rod into the milliput in order to get a sense of the position I'm looking for. Once I have done, I apply the glue to the rod and stick it back into the hole, easy now lads, working fast because the super glue will accelerate the curing speed of the milliput, but once dry, it should form a solid bond. At this point I realised that the plastic I sanded down on the RBT symbol on the shoulder plate is thinner than my sense of humour. I don't know if this will be okay in game, so while I had the milliput out, I broke it through and filled it in with some milliput to sand down later, which eased my fear of breaking it in game. I then filled in the gaps between the torso and groin, not really sculpting any detail, just purely filling them in. I then glued all the hands to the arms and removed the power cables from the power pack because the Sergeant doesn't have a hot-shot weapon, and even if he did, I doubt very much I'll be able to align them with the rifle. After a bit of dry fitting of the arm, it was evident I needed to trim back the top lip of the right RBT's shoulder pad to attach it to the Scion body, which was easy enough, but the arm still didn't sit flush, so I pinned it into place to make sure it wouldn't fall off. I then glued the new chainsword arm, power pack and head into place. There was a little hole in his leg to mount a pistol holster to, so I clipped off the peg so I could mount it to the leg, compensating for the armoured Scion plates now hanging down. Finally, I sanded down the Miller put from the RBT's shoulder pad and glued it into place using super glue. And this is the first operative finished, and he looks good. Suspiciously good, which means something will definitely break off the first time I roll dice with him. I really need to make some sprue glue. It's now time to move on to the gunners, and it just so happens that the RBT's kit already comes with a sniper, grenade launcher, Weber and heavy stubber, so I will just use them to make life easier. The Kasrkin do have options to take a grenade launcher and sniper. The Weber kind of looks like a melter, and I will use the heavy stubber as the hotshot volley gun. Easy. I won't bore you with every detail here because it's basically the same leg torso Frankenstein process as before, and I don't want this video to run like a Netflix miniseries, so from now on I will just concentrate on the processes that are different. With the gunners, it was easy. After constructing the legs and body as previously shown and shaving down the right RBT's shoulder pad, it was just a simple arm swap really, and I think they look fantastic. And here they all are together, and the squad is coming on together nicely, I think. The Weber makes for a perfectly acceptable melter, though the way the trooper is holding it, I doubt he will keep his left hand once he has fired it, but it's 40k after all. Nothing makes sense in 40k if you think about it. The heavy stubber also looks perfectly passable for a hotshot volley gun, so good form. Let's move on to the medic next. The RBT's kit does have a little med kit, so this will be perfect. The only issue is that I used the arm for the medikit for the plasma pistol arm of the sergeant, so now it's Frankie arm time. I find a baton arm that looks like to be in the right position, remove the baton and cut away the hand similar to the way I cut away the sergeant's hand from the chainsword. After neatening up the cut with my knife, I remove the hand holding the medikit with a saw this time, before doing the same with the baton arm, again neatening up as I go, gluing it together once I'm happy with the join. I want to use this arm from the RBT's Malakator, which is holding something that could pass for a medical device, but the pose is all wrong when I attach it. So I get a shield arm from the RBT's kit, cutting the forearm off and attach the glove holding the device that I want to keep, and I think he looks a little bit better. I do attach a lasgun to the power pack because the Kasrkin medic does have one in his datasheet. He's not perfect, but neither am I, so it's all good. Next up is the Demo Trooper. The Scion kit does have a bigger sort of suitcase thing that looks like it would definitely be stopped at airport security, so I think it can pass as a demo charge. This time I can just cut the hand off at the wrist, which does make things a little easier, but then the only arm from the RBT's kit that could work is the left arm from the Castigator, which doesn't exactly match the aesthetic I'm going for, but it's the only one that works for the pose. The Demo Trooper doesn't actually have a las rifle, instead he has a las pistol, which I sourced from the Scion's kit. I think the best way to equip the las pistol is by removing some of the shotgun from the RBT's arm. I think that by keeping the wrist and trigger intact and fitting the pistol around that will make the most natural pose. So I saw off the shotgun, no pun intended, remove the hand from the pistol, doing my best to carve a nice, neat little right angle to fix it into the shotgun arm. After making some measurements, I make some adjustments, making sure to cut little parts away each time to minimise error until I had something that fit together nicely. Then it was just a case of cutting off and sticking all the parts previously shown together until I had a chap that looked like this. Now it's time to move on to the Vox Trooper. Thinking I can be clever here, I wanted to use the RBT's Proctor Exactant arm holding the shotgun up in the air and attach a lasgun to it, but I cut the shotgun down too low and found the lasgun did not fit. Bollocks. Well, with any project there will be times that things just don't work out as intended, and in these moments we pivot. I found a baton arm from the RBT's kit which won't be as cool but should do the job fine, so I removed the baton ready to equip the lasgun. But before I do, I need to remove the left hand holding the stock of the las gun. So with my knife, I do my best to cut and scrape it away whilst retaining the shape of the gun. It would be much easier with a sharper blade, so for the next video I really need to replace it. I did remove the shoulder stock of the las gun to try and fit it to the previous arm, but with the new arm the las gun looks a bit naked, so I cut off a part of the baton I removed from the arm that I'm using and shave it down and glue it back into place. I then glue the finished las gun onto the arm, wishing again that I had some sprue glue for this because I'm not confident it's a strong bond, but only time will tell. I thought the speaker arm from the Proctor Exactant would make a good Vox piece, so I trimmed off the extra cables and glued it into place. Instead of removing the cables completely, I decided to use a little bit of green stuff to sculpt them leading back into the power pack. I cut a slither of green stuff and removed the middle where the two colours are touching and mush it together until I get a nice consistent green texture. Next I roll out a sausage, checking against the model to get the size right before placing it on the model, squeezing it into a tight fit on the model and trying to blend it in with the existing cables. I then remove the excess with my knife. Next I roll up a small blob of green stuff to create a connection point for the new cable to go into the power pack. I squeeze down on top of the cable on the power pack and do my best to mould it into a shape that would fit naturally with the aesthetic, and this of course resulted in an indistinguishable lump, so to add a bit more extra detail I cut another nub off the band to squeeze down into the green stuff to add a bit more detail, and that's that really. I'm trying to get better at sculpting by trying little new things like this where appropriate on my kit bashes and conversions, and I'm learning slowly but still learning. I glue everything together, and after I place the shoulder plate over the green stuff I can barely notice my effort, but the Emperor notices, so that's what counts. The Recon Trooper is the last specialist to build. I used the Auspex arm from the Malacator as befitting a Recon Trooper. I also equipped a las gun in the same way as the Vox Trooper shown previously. And to cut a long story short, this guy is definitely the ugly duckling of the group. Every family has one, so with nothing really new to show here, I will just glaze over this guy like a father at a dinner party with his least favourite son. Finally, we move on to the standard trooper. Again, I put the model together using all the previously shown steps, apart from the arms. This time I want the trooper to be holding his las gun with both hands. Again, I start by cutting down the shotgun from the RBT's kit, taking my time to make sure that the most important part of any guardsman is intact, his trigger finger. Next, I trim down the las gun so it will fit nicely on top of the trimmed shotgun, again adding a smaller shoulder stock to make sure that the las gun will fit onto the RBT's arm. I then glue both shotgun arms into place, trying to mimic the pose of the original RBT's model so I can line up the left hand to the arm as best I can. Once I am happy with the position, I glue the las gun to the arms. This does leave a little gap in between the left wrist and the arm, but this is easily fixed by wrapping a sausage of milliput around the wrist and gently squeegeeing it into place. And this is how he turned out. But let's have a look at them all together. Wow, that took a lot of time just for one squad of troopers, but I'm very happy with the result. The Sergeant, glorious. The Standard Trooper, chef's kiss. The Recon Trooper, well, he's there, but together they look like a proper Inquisition kill team, ready to storm a Genestealer uprising or stomp on a Tau orphan. I'm quite tempted to kit bash some more Standard Troopers just for the fun, but nah, I don't think I'll need any more than 10 really. Ever since reading the Demon Hunters Codex back in the early 2000s, I've loved the idea of super elite soldiers working for the Inquisition, and I've always wanted to kit bash some. The Kasrkin are good looking models, but Cadians in general for me are a bit too generic sci-fi soldier, not enough 40k flair. My new team does a good job of showing that Middle Ages 40k-ness combined with Spec Op, but more 40k than Spec Op. I'm really loving all things Inquisition at the moment, specifically the Ordo Xenos. I just wish Stormtroopers were an option in the Imperial Agents Codex, but maybe there will be an 11th edition, who knows, but for now I'm looking forward to getting some paint on them. If you like over-the-top conversions, slapdash painting and weird hobby projects, hit like and subscribe now. More Mad Dog Hobby coming soon with the new Tomb World release and much more. Ciao.